Hi everyone, this is probably going to be my last video to you, and so in this video we're going to go over the assignment checklist. We're going to go over the musculoskeletal project. I'm going to show you where things are, what to do, and about part 2 of your final. So let's start. As most of you have done, you have emailed me both your notes and your final of part 1, which was due yesterday, and I believe I got most of those. And so now we are here on Module 11. So you'll see on Module 11 I have speakers and I have videos up, and I'll show you those in a minute, of Paget and Zali. And I also ask that you start to work on your presentation and your annotation. Module 12, which is next week, I ask you to still work on your presentation and annotation, because although these things aren't actually due until the 31st of March, this is going to come up very quickly. And also part 2 of your final will be available on ExamSoft starting March 24th, and you will get an email from me with that password. So you can't access it now, but you'll be able to access it on March 24th. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is Module 11. So let's just go there, and here we go. So in Module 11, you will see that I have 2 video presentations here. The first one is from Dr. Paget, and if you don't know, Dr. Paget was a past president of NYCC. And this video, it's about a little over an hour long, but it's very interesting because he talks about the history of NYCC, and he talks about the history of chiropractic, and just gives some interesting information. I highly suggest that you watch this before you start part 2 of your final. And again, that's going to be on ExamSoft starting March 24th. This presentation is from Dr. Zali, and he also talked a lot about the history of chiropractic and gave some other really interesting information about chiropractic within New York State and the different laws and things like that. So again, I highly suggest that you watch this before you start your part 2 of your final. So that is Module 11, and that's all you have to do this week, plus the suggestion that I make to start working on your presentation and your annotation. So we're going to start looking at that here. So if you go under Musculoskeletal Research Assignment Remote, you'll see here that I have the instructions, which I'm going to go over. I have the rubric for you, and I have the example of what the annotation is going to look, an example of the annotation of what you're going to be submitting to me. So first, let's talk about the instructions, just to remind you. Okay. So as you know, this is your musculoskeletal project. This is something that we've been working on all trimester. You have done your developing work, or your developing question sheet. You have done your developing concept blocks, and your developing search string for all of these 6 areas. So again, just to remind you, the 6 research areas that we have been working on. The first one was the conservative care. Second was allopathic. Third was philosophy and history. And then you did the treatment and protocol. I made the management optional. And most of you did not submit anything, and that's okay. That's fine, because it was optional. But you are still responsible to have this information in your annotation, and I mentioned that in one of the previous interviews. The other area that you are responsible for is relevant anatomy, or other body parts that might be affected as it relates to your musculoskeletal topic. So this is something that I didn't ask you, for a developing worksheet on, or the concept block or anything. This is something that you had to work on by yourself. So these 2 areas, the management and the relevant anatomy, again, has been your responsibility. But those other areas were things that we worked on together. So hopefully you read through my comments and you made the revisions. So now a big question that I always get is, well, on the revisions I might have put a a question and a concept block, but are those my final? And do those need to be put in my annotation? And my answer to you is no. What you submitted as your revisions don't necessarily mean that they're your final, right? So maybe as you've been doing research and been looking at things, you have found other questions that you might want to ask related to the conservative care, or related to the allopathic care, or related to the history, or the philosophy, or the treatment. It all depends on you. For some of you, maybe what you submitted in your revised is the final, and that's okay too. So it just kind of depends on the research that you've done, what you have found interesting, and what you want to submit to me as your final. So that's why, again, I highlight this idea of final developing question, your final concept block, and your final search strings. Okay, if you have questions about that, please reach out to me, because I know that there are times that those can be a little confusing, because students will say, well, I sent you the revision of my developing question sheet and my concept block and my search string for the philosophy and history, and I don't want to use those anymore. Through my research, I found this other thing that I want to use. And I'm like, that's fine. That's okay. It's all up to you and what you have available to you and what you want to submit and show and finally present to me. So again, if you have any questions on that, let me know. This gets to the point of, you are going to have to do a PowerPoint, and this is an opportunity for you to teach others about your topic. So I don't have a structure. I don't have a certain amount of slides. It's really your opportunity to teach me or teach others in the class about your musculoskeletal topic. So there are some students that follow the annotation and they present the conservative care and the allopathic care and the philosophy and history, and that's fine, so on and so forth. And that's fine if that's what you want to do, if you want to follow your annotation. But then I have other students that found all this other cool information that might not necessarily fit into those areas, but they want to share that information with me and with others in the class, and that's fine too. This is really your opportunity and your chance to share any and all information that you found that was useful or interesting about your musculoskeletal topic. So that's why I have the PowerPoint, and then the annotation is strictly where you have to follow those 6 areas of research that we've been working on. Okay, so again, if you have a question about the PowerPoint, please email me your question and we can Zoom and we can talk about it. But again, it's unstructured because it's really your chance or your time to share with me any information that you want. And again, if you want to follow the annotation, that's fine. If you want to go outside of it, that's fine too. Okay. The next thing I want to show you is, and you should all be familiar, those are the instructions, so you should all be familiar with that. I've talked about that before. The other thing I want to share with you is the rubric. Okay, so the first part is your developing question sheet. What is your performance? Do you define your research question, again, for the conservative care, allopathic? Because we have been going through this step by step, all of you should be able to get a 3, especially for the conservative care, the allopathic, the history, philosophy, and the treatment and protocol. Okay, you should all definitely be at a 3 because I've looked at those, I've made comments, and so on and so forth. The assumption is that you will also be at a 3 with the management and with the anatomy because you know what I'm looking for. You know the way that you should answer or ask a question. And you know the concept block that should come from that, and your search string, and how all of those different worksheets work in conjunction. So here's your rubric, and you can see this is for the developing question sheet. Here's your concept block. This is the different sources, so your APA citation, where you're finding those. Again, with the APA citation, your access, what is the content that you're looking at. Are you looking at databases? Are you looking at websites? And so on and so forth. So I know all of you know how to read and understand a rubric. So this is here and available for you to look at as you put together your annotation. Again, this is very much used for your annotation, not for your PowerPoint. Okay, your PowerPoint it's very much your decision and what you want to do. And I do that on purpose because a lot of you, probably learned a lot of cool things about your topic that don't necessarily fit into those 6 areas. So again, that's really where you share that information with me in your PowerPoint. Okay, now here is an example. And this is just an example. And here the topic was Marfan syndrome. So you can see, number 1, our first research area was conservative care, right? And so here is the final question. And then you see the final concept block. Make sure you use quotes appropriately. You don't just put them in, for one word, but that they're actually used as phrases. You can see here's the search string. So again, these things come right from the worksheets that we've been working on. The big important thing to remember here is the annotation. So a lot of people ask, or a lot of students ask, well, what do you want in the annotation? Well, I want you to answer your question. Okay, so make sure that the articles that you find actually answer the question, and you put that information here in the annotation, and you can read these. So the article discusses the treatment of chiropractic patients suffering from whiplash. The patient co-presented with Marfan syndrome, so on and so forth, which normally did essentially what it's saying is that that they did not seek surgical interventions to correct the condition. And so you can see here what chiropractic treatments can be utilized for genetic disorder of Marfan syndrome, and this person answered the question by saying soft tissue, spinal manipulation, so on and so forth. Okay, now let's go to the next one. So here's allopathic care, same thing, final question. This is what their final question is. Here's their concept block, again using the quotes appropriately. Here's their final search string, the search string that they found, or the search string that they used in order to find this article. So here we have, it's very short, it's only a few sentences, but it answers this question. And that's the biggest thing, is that you have to make sure that you answer the question, and then here is your reference, right? And we've all done this in APA. You've put all that in D2L. I've looked at that. You put that in your some of you put those in your notes for your part 1 of your final. So you should all be very aware and know how to do these APA citations. Same thing, so on and so forth. Here's the philosophy and history. They were specifically looking at the conservative care. If you remember, you can look at conservative care or you can look at allopathic care. So here's the conservative care. All right. So again, this is just an example for you. Now, and you can read that. And please contact me if you have any questions about anything concerning the annotation or the PowerPoint. So now if we look here, we are module 13 and 14. Excuse me. So module 13 is where you put your PowerPoint presentation. Be sure to have your name in the subject area, in your research topic, and the discussion area. And as you can see, this starts opening up on March 31st. So again, your PowerPoint isn't due until March 31st, and you have until March 31st until April 13th to get it in there. And again, that's also on your assignment checklist. And then if you go to module 14 and 15, you'll see this is where I ask you to put in your annotation. So again, please upload your annotation. Be sure to have your name and your subject area. So there's 2 separate areas. And this you have from, it starts March 31st and you have until April 14th. Okay? But those are 2 separate areas. So make sure you put your PowerPoint presentation in module 12 and 13, and then put your annotation in module 14 and 15. Okay? If you have any questions about anything, please contact me. We can Zoom, we can email, we can talk on the phone, whatever is easiest or best for you. I don't want any of you to have any questions about anything. Please, I have no problem. I'm here for you. You know, just contact me. Again, this week is just the videos, but please start working on your presentation and your annotation, because before you know it, finals are going to be here and you're going to start being inundated with things. And it really shouldn't be that difficult. You should just be looking at your worksheets, taking those and copying and pasting and filling things out. It shouldn't be I'm hoping that it's not that difficult, because again, we have done it step by step throughout the trimester. If you have any questions, please contact me. I'm here for you. Other than that, stay safe and be well. All right. Thank you.